Gentlemen, great show for you guys today. I'm joined by a friend of mine who's a restaurant owner and a family man and a man about town with all the things he's got going on. And we're going to talk about how you find balance between work life and home life and goals. And all of that and more is coming up on The Sharp Gentleman. This is The Sharp Gentleman Podcast, a show that explores style, love, and what it means to be a modern gent. Discover what it takes to build better relationships, tackle your goals, and challenge your expectations of what's possible. From insights and advice to stories and powerful questions, you'll get everything you need to take your confidence to the next level and become the man you were born to be. I'm Blake Hammerton. Welcome to The Sharp Gentleman. So today is a great show. I am joined by my friend Kostas Lazanis. He is the owner, operator, chef, bartender, well, pretty much every job guy at his restaurant, Opa Greek Taverna, right around the corner in Rowlett, Texas. Now, Kostas, he's a hard-working man, just about to enter his 30s with his wife and 2 kids, an amazing Greek restaurant, a bunch of huge goals, and a home life to try and support and grow and make better. So how does he find a balance between crushing his career goals and creating memories and moments with his family? And like many of us, Kostas wears a lot of hats and works more and more and more on all the things he doesn't want to, but he has to do. But he does it because he's driven. So in this episode of the Sharp Gentleman Podcast, we are digging in to the drive, the struggle, and the rewards of the work as we try to find a balance and peace in both houses. Kostas, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's really going to be a good show because I feel like there's so many things here that guys struggle with, try to figure out the balance. How do I own my business or run my business or work my family, or how do I keep it all straight? And so I think you'll be a really great guest, and I'm really excited. But I guess the first thing is, tell us about you. What's your
wow.
Now?
Well, thank you, Blake, so much for having me on your show here. You have always been an inspiration for me. I think the first time we met, I think you came to a local chamber meeting at a Jason's Deli, I think it was, about 3 years ago.
Oh, man, no kidding. That is true. Wow.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I remember right off the top, your voice and the dapper that you have, it was stood out. So thanks for having me on the show, man. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, so when I met you, you had your restaurant, and you had just launched it, or at least that was my first introduction to you, and Opa Greek Taverna. So
we did. We opened May 2013, and
no kidding. See, May's such a big month, especially that year. So I moved to Texas May 13 of 2013, and then
so you basically moved.
I moved like
the day that I opened up, pretty much. Yeah,
pretty much.
May 19th when I opened up.
Meant to be. That's what that is.
Yes, sir.
So with running the restaurant, and then I see you out everywhere. You're out catering events. You're the chef. You're bringing in your own recipes. You're always trying something new, and new drinks and new cocktails, new everything. How on earth do you manage all that?
I don't know.
All right, good.
I don't know how I get it done. I just work harder. I've always been the underdog in everything I've done in life. So just taking it back, we opened up. Whenever I was 25 years old. My dad was a successful entrepreneur, so I was always chasing him and what he's doing. So in a good way, he was really harsh on me. He always worked. He was a working man, not really a family man. So for me, I always just wanted to get his attention. So for me to be better than everyone else, in some way, like, Dad, pay attention to me. Like, I'm here. Like, yeah. I'm trying to make him proud. So he was never at any of the baseball games, or like he was never there. So like, what can I do to get my dad so I've always like worked really hard to get my dad's attention type thing. Nice guy.
Right. But it's such a similar story because, a lot of guys, myself included, have had a boss for a dad, not so much a dad. So
sure.
We didn't have the go out and play catch thing. We had the more like go out and mow the lawn, go out and do the work. So
I think he was just so focused on creating his own empire or whatever it is. He's a successful entrepreneur that, he wasn't really that family man. He was more of a businessman. So yeah. So I was like, the whole "Cats in the Cradle" song, which is really sentimental song for me because now it's so funny because now that I'm so successful, he's kind of in a point in his life where he's kind of realizing the importance of family. Ironically, I'm telling him, Dad, I'm busy, I got caterings, and it's so funny how that song actually comes to realization.
It's definitely a full circle thing, and so you got a family and babies and all that stuff right now too.
that is another layer,
Yeah.
another layer of the onion that I'm chopping up right now. So it's crazy.
Well, so I guess, how did you get started? How did you begin this whole process
Wow.
of owning your own business, your restaurant? and
Sure,
everything?
sure. Wow. So it's crazy. So, I worked at my uncle's restaurant when I was 13 and as a little busboy, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And I think just being in the restaurant environment at, such a impressionable age of 13, it really sets, kind of like the bedrock for your psyche. And I actually went off to military academy. I watched one too many Rambo movies and just really wanted to join the Marine
So
Corps.
true. Us as kids were like, you know what? I'm going to be a Marine. I'm going to be a cop. I'm going to be a crime fighter.
And that was me. And I don't know. For some reason, I'm an extremist. Anytime I do anything, I can't just, buy a set of Army men. I have to go and join the toughest military academy in the United States, which was the Marine Military Academy in South Texas. And, I graduated, cadet of the year, cadet of the month, and, the president's club and the general's club and all these things, and just always trying to be successful and be the best. And for some reason, I just got tired, ironically, and I'll tell you the irony in this later on, but I just got tired of all the kids that didn't want to be there. They really demotivated me and kind of led me away from the military, because I feel like I was babysitting all these kids that didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And I think now that I'm older, I think the real military is like that too. When you start dealing with these 18-year-old kids and 19-year-old kids that, they may or may not want to be in the military. They may have just, signed up to escape life or whatever their problems are here.
Totally.
So they may not be super hardcore Rambo, machines. Like, that was what I envisioned, to be like a perfect soldier. There's actually a movie, and I'm not sure if your audience has watched it or not. It's called Soldier with Kurt Russell. And that idea of just creating that perfect soldier. Anyway, it's silly, but that's, sometimes you watch something like that and it just, a simple movie can change your life or change, your thoughts and really,
It's true. It takes you into something where you go, this is what I want, and so I'm going to take it to the next level.
Sure.
And so when you started as a busboy, and then you went to the military, and then you got out, you had this discipline instilled in you.
Yeah. So
and then did you take that back into working in a higher area of restaurants, or?
So going back to the military academy, we had actually a commercial kitchen there, and there'd be, and this is all in hindsight, looking back, how this kind of influenced my life, but. I joined Boy Scouts, and I was, I'm an Eagle Scout, and we, did a lot of camping, and I always enjoyed cooking with the Dutch ovens and stuff. And we would cook for, 15 to 30 boys or whatever, and on the campouts, and they'd be in charge of No
kidding. So you had cooking pretty much everywhere all the time.
And it's so funny. Yeah. So we would, make out lists and prep numbers, and you have to do your prepping, all the stuff that it takes to run a restaurant in Boy Scouts to feed everyone. Then, so I got out of the military academy, and I went straight into bodybuilding. So I had this new desire to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, this pipe dream of being a bodybuilder. And guess what bodybuilders have to do 7 times a day?
Yeah, eat. There you go.
They have to eat. So you start learning about macronutrients, and you start learning about different meats and different, all these different things that, you don't realize that people really don't have people don't have any idea about those macronutrients. So that was all. So I'm cooking every day, cooking.
Yeah.
And I got a job as a waiter at a local Greek restaurant.
Okay.
And started waiting tables. And I just love waiting tables. I love serving people. And I know I'll talk to other people I'll never be a waiter again. That's below me. And it's for some people, it's, demeaning to wait on people. For me, it's like the highlight of my day is to go to a table. Even today, I've been in business for 5 years. I will still put on the old apron and go to a table. I love it. For
those of you that aren't familiar, if you ever are in Rowlett, Texas, and you go over to Opa Greek Taverna, and you're like, oh, I'm going to have some dinner. Kostas comes out from the kitchen or behind the bar, and he comes and he sits and he waits on your table, and he comes out with some things. And so he's always involved with you, no matter what you're doing. He just comes and says hello, and he's like, no, I got this. And he'll tell the regular server, sort of go do another table because this one is his. and I love that. So you really get that you're the owner and the chef and the line cook and the bartender and the server. And,
I'll still give the servers the tip, though. I'll just do all the work for them.
But it's just one of those things where it's that idea that no matter what you're doing to provide for people. Because I feel like there's this part of trying to be the best, and at the same time there's this humanity of just trying to serve people, just trying to nourish them.
Sure.
And that's a really cool place for you, especially when we visit you at your restaurant, because it always feels like we're family.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about the restaurant business is it's such a human thing, eating food. It's so human. It's you use the word nourishing, and like that's something so beautiful to feed someone. Like that's so basic, and it sounds a little stupid and silly, but to feed someone is a beautiful thing. To give them some food, and I think other careers out there, dentists and doctors, and they all do great things. Auto mechanics, but just I don't know, just a plate of food.
It's true. I'm feeding more than just this one. I'm feeding you and your life and your soul and your ability to go out and do things. You're actually giving them strength to go and conquer the things in their lives. So, what was the catalyst to actually have you open your own restaurant?
So, chasing my dad, he opened a few businesses and he's so successful, and so he kind of always told me, "This is America. Don't go work for someone else." Yeah. And he's an immigrant. He's from Greece. And he told me, go open up your own business. So he really drove me to be successful. Ironically, he made me go to college. I actually did not want to go to college. Yeah. And on record, I can say that it was a waste of time and money for me.
And it's okay. You can say that because so many people are realizing that $200,000 for 4 years for a degree that's not going to help them is a sham.
That's probably a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other episode.
But I did go. He paid for it. He said, "Hey," and I get why, because not everybody has what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And it's a very hard, difficult, lonely road to be an entrepreneur. It definitely can be, yes. So there's no turning. There's no clocking out.
No, that is true.
You're always on 24/7. So a lot of people that, it's easy to point at the boss and say, "Oh yeah, it must be so nice to be the boss." But the boss is pointing back at you and saying, "It's so nice to be the employee."
To check in and check out. Totally agree.
So, but the question was, what made me open my own restaurant? It was, chasing my dad. And it was really cool. He actually set a goal for me. It wasn't like he just threw money at me. He's like, he wanted to help me out, but he wanted to see how passionate I was. He's like, "Hey, raise this much money, and then, I'm going to match it." So he actually helped me match the money, because it takes a lot of money to open a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. And so we, myself included, have this idea, this is a restaurant I want to open. I want to own a restaurant. And so I started looking at, I could do it for $100,000. No, $250,000. No, $500,000. You realize when you really want a restaurant, not a dive with just you and your wife working.
Sure.
You have actual people having actual food. It's very expensive.
And the restaurant business comes in all shapes and sizes, like every other business. Whether it's a big dealership versus a mom and pop car dealerships. You can start off with one car, or you can have a lot. Do the local Troy Aikman Ford dealership.
That's true. Yeah.
So you can have the restaurant business. I did actually open up under $100,000.
Nice.
And that was hustle. That was going to restaurant auctions. That was painting everything, doing all the interior decorating myself, doing everything. It was overalls. Revisiting all those Boy Scout merit badges, woodworking and painting and all these things. So we actually opened up under 100,000, and it's been great. No debt. Opened up with no debt and never had any debt, and that's been So that's super exciting.
I feel like that's a big trend, a big difference in how you do things, because when you come in, you can tick the mark and go, all right, well, I'm operating now and I'm making a little bit of money and that's cool, but I still owe, $200,000.
That can be really demoralizing, I think.
Yeah, how do you have to, I just have to keep this restaurant open, and even though I'm barely making any money, because I eventually have to try to pay off the debt I have from starting the restaurant. And you came in with a totally different trajectory, because you started from a different place.
Sure.
So I guess, what was one of the first setbacks you had once you launched?
So the biggest mistake, I think, that I have at the restaurant, I didn't open with a bar. And
I remember that.
Yeah, we did not have a bar when we opened up, and I was really naive. You think you know everything, and you realize you don't know anything. And I think that's with anything, whether it's your podcasting, you just start to realize, the equipment you need and doing different things, whatever it is that you're doing in life, whatever your listeners are doing out there. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. That's the old saying, right?
That is the name of the game.
So yeah, I thought I knew everything, and I opened up the restaurant, and it's so funny. I never even knew what an anxiety attack was or anything like that. I remember the day before I opened up, I was throwing up and I had diarrhea and I was like in a fetal position in my bed crying, and I didn't know what happened to me. Like, I don't know. I was like, am I dying?
Yeah.
Looking back at it, it was like a massive like anxiety attack, and that's crazy. Because the overwhelming. Imagine just $80,000, your life savings, everything you've ever done, and we're about to press the on-air light. We're about to go live. It's just really daunting. And for a 25-year-old kid, remember, I'm 25 years old when this all happened, and I always say age is just a number, but a lot of 25-year-old kids are still, playing Pokemon cards at their parents' house.
Which is sad. If you're listening and you're doing that, stop that.
You need to be using Yu-Gi-Oh, not Pokemon.
Yeah. Find a more grown-up way to do things.
Magic cards, guys, not Pokemon.
We're really dialing it back.
Goodness. But so I mean, but is that laser focus to open up a restaurant, and it was waiting tables. I made my money from my restaurant waiting tables.
Yeah.
Working lunches and dinners. And a lot of your listeners, I'm not sure know or not, but your wife, bartending at local bars.
16 years in service. So everything from a bar back all the way through hostess, through server to bartender to all of it.
You can make money. It's just hard work,
Yeah.
and it's consistent hard work, like everything else in life, right?
Mm-hmm. So what was one of the moments that you had when you opened and you thought, oh my God, I'm doing this. This is working. We're gonna make it.
I'm still thinking. That's
good.
I'm still wondering. Are we making it or not? No, we've kind of always made it, and there was a time where sales dropped really, really low.
Yeah.
And I had to make cuts, and I had to talk to my team. Kind of my inner circle of employees that worked for me that were kind of like my cornerstone of my business, and I told them, guys, take a little pay cut for a little bit. Like any good boxing fight, let's work the rounds. Let's be consistent. We have a great product. Let's just continue to do what we do,
mm-hmm.
and little by little, the word will get out. And luckily, my wife was still working, so I was actually able to live off of her paycheck. But the restaurant was making zero money for about 8 months.
Wow!
So it was breaking even. Never had lost money. A lot of restaurants lose money and they still operate.
Yeah.
I was breaking even, like literally zero money was coming out in profits. So everything was going back into the restaurant. But I told the guys, like, just, a lot of them, when you start seeing no customers at all, you start worrying about your job, like.
True.
And,
yeah.
and the morale goes down. And I had to, give that pep talk to the staff, like, let's continue to do what we do. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep boxing the rounds. Let's keep working each round, day by day. And then, let me go out and promote and market and do all the things that I do. And let's bring some people in here and let's give them a good show.
Yeah.
And here we are 5 years later, a Greek restaurant, really in East Texas, I guess you could say. Rowlett, and I love Rowlett, and it's been good to me, but it's not the most affluent community in North Texas.
Yeah, it's not as diverse in its cultures as far as a Greek restaurant would belong next to an Indian restaurant in certain parts of downtown Dallas. This is a perfect area. Rowlett,
it's a bedroom community.
Isn't really the same. It's a bedroom community. So
sure.
You really have to put your roots in there and show them that you're going to stick around before they start trusting to go to your restaurant.
Sure. And Greek food for a lot of people in Texas in general, all parts of Texas. I mean, Texas is just not really. We're doing a lot of things with the Greek yogurt and the feta cheese and all these things. Right. But
we're basically Tex-Mex.
But Greek, yeah. I mean, as I always say, chicken fry. I should have opened up chicken fried steak. So that was my biggest mistake. Maybe I should have opened a chicken fried steak restaurant. That was my biggest mistake.
That's true. Well, all right. So when you look at all the things you're doing, what's like the best piece of advice you received?
Man, the best piece of advice I ever received when it comes to the restaurant business, you're asking?
I guess the restaurant, or just trying to run your life, stay focused on things. What's one of the best pieces of advice that someone told you and you thought, man, I'm still doing that today?
Man, I don't know. There's a quote by Aristotle. You are what you repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act; it's a hobby.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I've really never had anybody per se give me. I'm really big on a lot of the quotes, and I think I told you a few of them off air before we started.
Yeah.
I try to take all these different things. I have other influencers, and I think we have some of the same influencers like Gary Vee, and there's a YouTuber called Casey Neistat.
Yep.
And a lot of these guys, it's just like work harder, do more, and so I really kind of feed off of that.
Do you have any advice that you heard? You don't have to name names, but like, this is the worst advice I've ever heard. This does not help me.
The worst advice, I think, I don't know if I've had, you get people giving you advice all the time, especially when you own a restaurant. You get people who saddle up to the bar that always give you their 89 cents.
They're just going to should all over you.
And exactly, you should do this, you should do that. And, for instance, but I don't know, going back to your question, worst advice, I don't know if I had any, if it was bad advice, maybe I don't remember it.
It could be true. Maybe it was so bad that you just didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah. I haven't really listened to too bad of advice. I think the biggest thing was when my architect told me that I didn't have space for a bar. That was probably the biggest thing. Probably not buying enough house back in 2009 whenever I bought a house.
True. Yes, now we know. So the worst piece of advice was, this is a good enough house for me.
Yeah, it's like, I should have spent an extra $20,000 and it would have...
oh my goodness, the amount of equity you would have earned by now.
Exactly.
It's okay. Hindsight's 2020. You should have had a bar in the beginning. You should have bought a house twice the size.
But you know what? Everybody makes some mistakes in life. Everybody does.
Yeah.
We all have mistakes that we've made, woulda, shoulda, couldas. Some of them are bigger than others.
Right. And I think one of the things too is that people go, well, it's too late now, and I think that's total bullshit. Because the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is right now.
Sure.
Just plant the tree.
Because 20 years is going to come and go, and that tree, you're going to say thank you.
The time's going to pass whether you like it or not. If you just plant the tree now, in 20 years it'll be here.
Yeah.
It's not like you go, oh, I missed another opportunity. Put the seed in the ground, man.
Sure.
So I guess you have the restaurant, you have the things that you do, and you say that sometimes you're not sure how you balance it all. For the guys out there who are trying to figure out how do they have that work-life balance, how do they try to pursue their dreams and do more and work harder and do all those things, and at the same time try to be there for their family and be a man in the house, how do they find that balance? What would you say is one thing that you do to try to keep your level head?
There's a lot of information out there on that topic of work-family balance, because working today, we're so fortunate to have jobs, and we have to remember that, there's people out there that are unemployed, that other countries that don't have the opportunities we have to have a job, they're begging for money.
Yeah.
So for us even to have a job, that's a beautiful thing, and we have to kind of remember that first and foremost. But at that note, it's because of every year there's so many graduates and so many people hunting for a new job that the job can be really demanding, and especially as an employee, especially like for the professional employees, it's a Shark Tank out there.
It totally is.
So, as an entrepreneur though, I'm on a whole nother level though, like what we were saying earlier about never turning it off. That's it. You never turn it off. And, I think the biggest, my wife, she's a sweet lady, sweet woman. And I'm very proud. We've been married 9 years now, actually. So she's been with me since I was 21. But, it's probably been the hardest on our relationship the past 5 years, owning the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because, we could just turn it off and go and spend time with each other. Now, I can be in the middle of a romantic dinner and there's, an emergency at the restaurant and I get a phone call. How to deal with this situation?
True.
So years two to four, whatever, I think it was really difficult. Now, I'm trying to add, a few extra people between me and the end user. So, I hired a manager to kind of help relieve, some of the, mundane tasks that I have to deal with. And I think if you own a business, eventually you have to get to that point when you become successful enough, you need to add some support there.
Sure. Sure. It feels like the things that I'm hearing are, one, be grateful, operate from gratitude, because you do have an opportunity. You do have a job. There are other people who are out there who are vying for your job. So be grateful you've got it.
So many businesses that go out every year.
And I think that goes to number two, which is about having the right support staff there. And I like you to say you have more people, more checkpoints between you and the end user, because there should be things there that allow the business to run itself. Because the deal is, if you open a business and then you're going to just work in it to the day you die, you didn't. You don't have a business, you have another job.
Sure.
But the idea is make it successful enough that you can begin taking your hands off of it and just let it run itself, and you can then go and live your life.
Sure. And that's the romantic idea, is like, and then people are easy to point fingers at the business owner and say, he's working in his business, not on his business. And
sure.
Like the Rich Dad Poor Dad says in his book, it's easy to say that, but when it's something you've built from the ground up and you're so passionate about it, and you can't just sit back and watch the ship sink. I mean, you've got to,
totally.
You're there, and it's but there is, I mean, so I fight with myself every day of do I delegate this out or do I handle it myself? And I use the phrase, I don't want to babysit the babysitter. And
True.
See, like the regional manager is there to babysit the general manager. So like there's a babysitter babysitting the babysitter.
Right.
And that's in corporate world, So at the end of the day, there's so many layers of administration that have to be in place to make sure that it runs seamless.
Well, so I guess going back to that, because there's a lot of guys who will try to wear all the hats. Men are notoriously good at wearing every single hat that comes at them. I'm the dad, I'm the brother, I'm the son, I'm the lawnmower, the snowblower, I'm the restaurant owner, I'm the cook, I'm all these things, all of it. I run the books, the whole shebang. So because we're so good at all those things, what would you say is some good advice for finding just the hats you want and then delegating the hats to the jobs you don't want to do?
I pay someone to mow my lawn.
Okay, that's a start.
I pay someone to mow my lawn, and I realize you have to. I had an elderly neighbor living next door to me. Her name was Barbara, and she told me don't waste dollar time on penny work. And I'm not sure how popular
That sounds good. We should probably heed that advice. Don't waste dollar time on penny work.
Yeah, so you pick and choose, because we all have 24 hours in the day. And what am I going to do with those 24 hours? And you can do it yourself, or you can pay someone to do it for you. And that's opportunity cost 101. Sure. And we have to decide every day what we're going to do, how much time we're going to spend on each task, and et cetera, et cetera. But something's got to give. And, does your relationship give? Does your business give? Do you settle for less profits at the end of the year? Do you cut your labor down, or do you increase advertising? There's so many variables.
Yeah.
And there's not a right answer. There's righter answers, but there's not a right answer.
Sure. It feels like if you find the opportunity costs that allow you to give you the free time to do more of what you can do. So instead of sitting here and running the books, and I'm going to run the payroll every single, Friday or whatever it is. And I know because of my staff and everything, we're trying to do the receipts, this and that and the other thing. That's going to take me 7 hours on a Friday. Or I could have a service like Paychecks take care of it, automated. They're all good. That's what they do all day long. They'll be able to do it all for me. I pay them, and that's an opportunity cost. But now I have that whole Friday to do more marketing, to get more customers in the door, to be a showman and show them what the restaurant can do. So it feels like if we can figure out truly what you said, the penny tasks, the things that I could pay someone pennies on the dollar to do, and they're good at it, allows me to then focus on the dollar tasks I can do to create more revenue.
Sure.
That'll help.
And on the flip side of that, for all these inspiring entrepreneurs, there is 5,000 people in line waiting to assist you with every task you need.
Oh yeah,
and
you resources
and
out
you
there
can go
are
into
incredible.
debt really quick by allowing people
Also
to help
true.
you. So it's a double-edged sword, So you have to pick and choose your battles.
I think that's very true. I forget about that sometimes, that because I'm a do-it-yourselfer just like you. Let's just do everything ourselves. We should have our hands in everything because we need to know how to do it. Because I'm a lead by example guy. If I tell you how to build this house, but I've never built a house, then I have no reason, I have no right to tell you how to build a house. I'll give you my idea, and then you're the expert. You do it. But if I know how to run the payroll and do the cooking and clean the restaurant, I know how to do everything from start to finish, then I could then delegate out because I know how much it's going to take, how long it's going to take, who can do it, what kind of skills are involved. I'm a better teacher because I've been there. And when they're absent, because they will be, because they call out all the time, I can go and do it myself because I've done it. But there are those entrepreneurs that have the big vision, and they jump in and they go, I don't know how to do anything, but this is my idea, so I'm going to hire everyone to do all the different parts. Well, it's impossible to do that because they can't buy into your vision because you don't know how to do any of those things, and you'll get swindled.
Sure.
They'll charge you whatever they need to pay their family, and they'll build you a restaurant, but basically you're going to get hosed.
Sure. And I think just depending on where you're at in life, what your budget is, like you said, the bigger vision. I mean, so if you start off with a $5 million restaurant, you can hire, more professionals to work for you if you have a bigger budget.
Sure.
And, as I'm growing organically, I'm starting to add more professionals as we're growing 5 years. Now, like for instance, I just got done remodeling the restaurant, a little painting. I just paid somebody $900 to paint a wall in the restaurant. I would have never paid $900 to paint. I would have painted the wall myself for $200. or $300, whatever it costs for the paint and the ladders and stuff. But for me, it's just like, we're able. So I think as you grow in your business, and I always cut my own lawn, for instance,
Sure.
and then at a point, it was just like a manly thing to do. Like, I mow my own lawn.
Yeah.
Like,
look at my lawn. That lawn is my lawn.
Like, yeah, that's my lawn. I'm gonna mow it. So, but then you realize, like, that's a lot of work, and he's offering to do it for $20. So.
Right. Why would I say no to that?
Sure. And that's not just time for business, because you told me about the balance. That's more time with my wife.
Exactly.
So instead of processing payroll, like you said, and actually we need to use Paychex. So shout out to Paychex for processing open earnest payroll. But that's more time with my wife, and that's my biggest struggle, and that's something that I never talk about, and I kind of hide that part of my life. Everyone sees the glamorous side of, especially of a restaurateur. They just see me behind the bar having a drink with some customers.
Right.
That is the tip of the iceberg. They don't see everything underwater. They don't see the struggles. They don't see, coming home to a wife that's crying because her husband's never home, or a 3-year-old daughter is saying, "When's Daddy coming home?" Because it's nights and weekends, and it's grueling hours, and it never stops. And a lot of people don't see the difficult part of running a restaurant.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think that you're right when you look at, paying someone $900 to paint a wall, because it gives you the ability, now you can't afford it, and you would have spent the entire day doing that. Sure, it would have saved you $700, but that's another full day or night, because you're painting off hours.
Sure.
Where you're not home with your family. That's another time away, and you're like, now there's a cost there too. So what, I guess, sort of wrapping things up, what is one thing you want guys to know about trying to find that balance or trying to take it to the next level?
This sounds corny, but I think family first. And, you have to remember at the end of the day that, the business is going to come and go. Mm-hmm. I don't know a lot of restaurants that were around in the 60s and 70s that are still here.
Very few. And if they are still around, they're on TV, because it's so rare to see a restaurant last that long.
But your family's still going to be there. So I think in our age, late 20s to late 40s, we're just chasing that business, that career. And sometimes it can be, we get that tunnel vision, and sometimes we lose sight of the things that are important to us. And I'm guilty of that as well. I'm just so focused on being the best, and sometimes it's a double-edged sword, because you something's got to give, and you sacrifice something to be better than someone else, because someone else doesn't have a family and is working 90 hours a week to be better than you. So there's always somebody out there hungrier and working harder than you, and that's the mentality that I've always had growing up. But now that I have a family and I have a wife and I have other things, I guess I can't be that shark anymore.
Well, it feels like you've got a why now. It used to be your why was just to be the best and to conquer everything. And now that you have a family, your why is to have a family. Your why is to be there for your family. And I feel like a lot of business people who, especially when they get a family and things soften, I guess, is they learn that there's more to life than just working 100 hours a week and putting it in the bank and starting over.
Sure.
You're going to go home to your family. You're going to go home and feel like, oh, that one day I took the day off and spent time with my wife and my child on the lake just getting sunburned.
It was
nice. The best day ever.
Sure. So that's it. Your priorities change, and your mindset change. I think that's just the evolution of life. We all go through different seasons of life, and having a family, having kids, I'm sure as we get older, having grandkids or whatever it is, life changes, and we change with life.
So staying clear on that. Right on. Well, Kostas, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. What's the best way for listeners and other people to get a hold of you and learn more about you and maybe go to your restaurant?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just in case you didn't hear, we actually are a Greek restaurant, so a full-service Greek restaurant. Here's my corny 30-second spiel here.
Bring it.
All right, so we are a full-service Greek restaurant located in Rowlett, Texas, just east of the Dallas Metroplex. We're open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. We also offer a European brunch experience on Saturday and Sunday.
You should totally come to Rowlett, Texas for that alone.
Deep fried creme brulee French toast.
I'm telling you, and the Greek coffee. Whew, baby.
There you go. But yeah, so that's where we operate our restaurant at. We do have a strong online presence. Go to our Instagram account. We've really been trying to beef up our YouTube channel, so definitely go to Opa Greek Tavern on YouTube and smash that subscribe button.
That's right.
Give us some love on YouTube, and yeah, just come by and say hello. I'm there, 4 days a week. I have a pretty good balance between being there and being with my family.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest takeaway is that sometimes at the beginning you got to do 7 days, 100%.
Sure.
And then as you get successful, you start getting traction, you can dial that down because you can turn up family, you can turn up pleasure, you can turn up the things you really want in your life.
Exactly. And I still do things. Anyway, I just still do things off the clock. Even when I'm at home with my family, I still have to answer phone calls and sneak emails on my phone.
It never stops.
But anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at in Rowlett, Texas. Yeah, definitely stop by and check us out and come get your Greek on. You're going to love it, I promise you. If you had Greek food before, you'll be in for a treat. Right
on. Well, again, thank you so much. I'll have things in the show notes to give you links to where you can find him, his YouTube channel, to subscribe, and all that stuff. But for all you guys out there, the work-life balance is something that we're all searching for. We're trying to figure out the best way to find time for family, time for goals, time for side projects, time for career, time for everything. And again, as Kostas said earlier, you only have 24 hours in a day. Pick and choose the things that will get you to the life that you want, because something's got to give, and that's got to be okay. But until next time, keep trying, keep focusing, write it down, and just crush those goals in front of you. But write it down, because if you don't have it in front of you, you don't know what you're doing. But until next time, stay brilliant.